29 years ago, I never really thought about abortion. I didn't really see it as an issue because it wasn't an issue 29 years ago in Northern Ireland. But I went to a conference in Dublin. I picked up a brochure. There was a picture of a little baby boy who had been aborted. And it just changed my life in a split second. And that's where I formed Precious Life.
Bernadette Smyth is a pro-life activist based in Belfast and the founder and director of the organisation Precious Life. Established in 1997, over nearly 3 decades, she has led the group in public campaigning on abortion-related issues across Northern Ireland and beyond, becoming one of the region's most visible and influential pro-life voices. Bernadette has appeared in interviews and public discussions, including media features and online broadcasts, where she speaks about her activism. Through Precious Life, she's also been involved in community outreach events and advocacy work focused on promoting her organisation's mission. And Bernadette joins me now. Okay, so thank you, Bernadette, for joining me. And can you share with our viewers what led you to, I suppose, enter into the pro-life movement to help mothers and unborn children?
Well, 29 years ago, I was working in retail. I was a supervisor, training as a manager for fashion retail. I worked for River Island, so I was very much happy and content. I had a few children. I'd been married a number of years. I was very much into my faith, but never really thought about abortion. I didn't really see it as an issue because it wasn't an issue 29 years ago in Northern Ireland. But I went to a conference in Dublin, and it was a Divine Mercy conference. It was a religious conference, and I was leading a Divine Mercy prayer group in my own parish. And so I went to hear some speakers, and during that conference, I picked up a brochure, and during one of the intervals, after one of the talks, I opened the brochure, and there was a picture of a little baby boy who had been aborted. And it just changed my life in a split second. As I looked into the little baby face, and his body was all bruised and bloody. And I thought, what is this? How can someone do this to a child? And even looking at the picture, my youngest child at that time was 1.5 or something, and my other girls were up a wee bit. They were like 5 and 7 or something. And like I'd had ultrasounds, I knew all about fetal development, but I never really thought about abortion because it wasn't ever something we needed to talk about, because at that time, unknown to me, I didn't realise that the Labour government, Tony Blair, was leading the government, who had voted on 3 occasions to legalise abortion up to birth here, and by introducing, the 1967 Abortion Act. But anyway, I left that conference totally transformed. I came home. There was a lot of things in between. I came home. I showed the image to my husband. He was equally devastated. Both of us were shocked. I went to my prayer group on the Tuesday night after the weekend conference. And after the prayer group, we met for coffee and we chatted, and I showed the image around, and everybody was like horrified. So you could say Precious Life was formed from that prayer group. At that time, like, I was just an ordinary person, happy enough in my life, looking at rearing up children, married, and went to was happy with work, but something just kept prompting me, and I started to really pray for discernment, and I realized that it was something. My life was totally changed. I could never go back to before after seeing that image. I could never go back. I just thought, how could I live in a world that was killing children? In fact, I contacted a couple of the SPUCTV members here in Northern Ireland, Rita Brennan, and I asked her more about the politics of it all. Because I didn't watch the news then, because I was probably busy feeding children, looking at being a mommy and so on. So I didn't really know much about politics or anything. So I met with Rita, and she came and spoke to some of the group, prayer group. And we start to learn more about the Labour government, what UK 67 Abortion Act, British Act. And so then within a few weeks, then there was a conference in Dublin. I'd signed a form to say I'd like more information. And I went, gathered up some of my friends and colleagues and from the prayer group. And we went to Dublin. And that's where I formed Precious Life, along with, at that time, it was Youth Defence, now Life Institute. So I've been working alongside, the other pro-life groups in Ireland, specifically Life Institute. So that really was like me becoming an activist. I set up a street stall in Cornmarket 29 years ago. That street stall has been there every single Saturday for 29 years. So that's where, at the moment, we're under major threat to stop pro-life outreach in Belfast. And I suppose that's why we're having the Rally for Life, Liberty and Faith on the 4th of July. Because not only do they want, the government wants to kill unborn children, they want to stop us defending them also, as you know, with buffer zones that started out in Northern Ireland and the UK, the rest of the UK, and in the Republic of Ireland. And now they want to silence the voice of Christians, of pro-lifers. They want to curtail what we do and really let the babies die without a fight. So
Bernadette, can you tell us a bit more about that then, specifically in Northern Ireland? When it comes to life issues, what is actually happening for those of us who are not aware?
Well, I mean, if you look back to, we now have the buffer zones in 2023 that were passed at Stormont. So up until 2023, you could say for the last 24 or 5 years, we prayed outside abortion referral agencies until abortion was forced in by the British government in 2019 and implemented in 2020. So we were praying outside all these hospitals, all these agencies, and the buffer zones were introduced, and now they're also have expanded to the UK and to Ireland. So what we're seeing now is Northern Ireland is being used to push in draconian laws that would curtail our freedom of speech. And that's really what happened in 2023 past. The Belfast City Council wanted to introduce, you could say exclusion zones, bylaws to stop Christians from preaching on the street, to prevent groups like Precious Life, who are the only active group here on the street, every week giving out information, talking to the public. So they voted on the pro-abortion parties, who are made up in the council, similar to the Stormont government. They voted to pass bylaws that would prevent Precious Life from giving out information material. From what we can read between the lines, that would include like your fetal development. They're saying you can't wear a T-shirt that depicts anything that they refer to as graphic. They like the fetal models that we have on our table, anything that would show anything related to an unborn child. Also, they're saying that Christian preachers can only preach at a limit of 70 decibel. So that would be, say, for example, our Rally for Life on the 4th of July. You would have to get a permit to speak louder than 70 decibels. So they really want to get rid of anybody on the street that's pro-life and Christian. So we're the only groups that are being targeted. They talked about the other artists who are out at the weekend, and they say they could maybe have a permit, but that it seems to be that there might be something in the legislature, the bylaws, that would prevent someone from busking and so on. So there's a real battle waging. Thankfully, the bylaws have been challenged at the moment. The Democratic Unionist Party, along with the Ulster Unionist Party and the TUV, Traditional Unionist Voice, all made a call in, which means they're challenging the bylaws under human rights legislation. equally, we ourselves did and other groups, interested groups, participated in a consultation, and the overall outcome of the consultation was in favour of, us continuing and the Christian voice being active on the street. So we've decided this year, in union with our colleagues in the south of Ireland, to have the Rally for Life in Belfast as opposed to Dublin. From 2007, when we formed the Rally for Life coalition, we alternated between Belfast, Dublin every other year, and then in 2018, when the referendum withdrew the legal protection to unborn children, the Rally for Life has been in Dublin. But this year, we feel we need to have it here because our liberties are under threat. Obviously, we're seeing now in the south of Ireland over 50,000 children have been lost to abortion, and here over 1,100 little ones are now dead because of the law here that was forced on Northern Ireland against the wishes of the people. So
how are you getting around the restrictions then, Bernadette? How are the people getting around the restrictions? You said you're out every Saturday for the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, we're out every day somewhere. I mean, we have prayer vigil in outside the Daisy Hill Hospital in Newry. We had one earlier today at the City Hall. We're able to, and other hospitals in Derry, Nagelvin, we're able to go there. We can still witness within the area. We're still doing what we were doing prior to the buffer zone legislation. I think the worst thing that really affected Precious Life was the Colley Street in Belfast, where we were able to engage with women who were using. We'd saved so many lives there. We were able to give the women helpline numbers. The difference here in Northern Ireland, probably than England, might be similar in Scotland. Most of the abortions are performed in hospitals. Every hospital here in Northern Ireland is an abortion centre, is an abortion facility, bar the one here in the city centre. So we go as close as possible. We pray, we witness with our signs. So we're still doing what we were doing before. We haven't stopped. We just can't engage the same way we would have done with the women. I mean, so many babies are alive because for all those years we were able to be present to those women. But what we do now is, because we have the Sutton Healthcare Pregnancy Centre, we have to work harder because we need to get the woman here. So we're in the process of moving to a new location, so it's very exciting. Brand new office. We're moving hopefully in August. So we will increase that outreach through better Google ads and try to get as many women to us. So we're doing it differently. We're doing it a wee bit differently than what we were doing. We can still go out on Saturday afternoon. We do the road shows every year. We do the different towns, like this Saturday we're in Belfast and Derry, advertising for the Rally for Life and encouraging people on the street, talking about the issue, bypassing the media. And you can change hearts and minds. We know that that's the only way we have to do what we have to do, regardless of what the government says, what laws are in place.
And what do you think people misunderstood about the pro-life movement?
Well, I think that it's great to have the conversations. I mean, I'm getting a lot older now than I was when I started out. And we have Youth for Life who are re-established now. And so we're trying to create more of get the young people back out again. The conversations are very interesting, I find, on the street, because everyone is just like, they buy into the slogans, where when you can have the conversation with a person, challenge them on the humanity of the unborn child. Is the child a person? What stage of the development? You can't really change the narrative by being there. And I because I started out on the street as an activist, it's just something, it's in my blood. It's just something I know works. I've had women coming up to me over the years saying, you're that girl. I see you here all the time. When I was pregnant and I was thinking of having an abortion, I took one of your leaflets. And you have women coming back, or you have grandmothers saying, I took that leaflet because my granddaughter was considering an abortion and I showed her it, and so on. So we know we make a difference. We change. You have to change those arguments by bringing truth right.
Well, you're
to where.
present there. You're present. I think your presence has impacts, Bernadette.
Yeah.
You're such a gift. But I'm sure going out, especially as a woman going out in the streets, is not easy. It's like you're up against a lot of
I don't know.
unhappy people who are not happy to see you.
I've grown tough skin over the years. I've been called Hitler. I've been called, every name under the sun. And you sort of it's amazing how you learn to turn the other cheek. You learn to offer up and just accept the fact that, you're defending little ones who can't defend themselves, and they may attack you by, verbally or, physically, which has happened. But we can live to tell the tale. The babies that we try to defend can't. So like it is a self-offering. And I know that was the calling that God placed in my heart 29 years ago, and I've never changed that pain in my heart after seeing that little baby. And thinking of my own little children, went back to my little boy who was 1.5 or so at the time, and I thought of his, the preciousness of every child, and so I've never lost that real, in sort of, would you call it, that sort of heart-wrenching moment that just drives me. And you just know, we all know, those of us in the movement know that, it is a calling. And regardless of the persecution, it doesn't really matter, because we're not persecuted to death as the babies are. And if we can save even one baby from that horror, it's worth it. But we can save not just one, we can save so many,
So would there ever be a time where you felt like giving up, or?
Well, there's times I feel like I'd like to run to the hills. I might like to say, can I set up Slemish Mountain, or can I go on a retreat and never come back again? But I know once you realize there are moments where you just have to maybe take a few days off, go on a retreat, go on holidays, which I love to go on holidays, and take time to refresh yourself. And I feel spiritually, having your spiritual life in order is very, very important. I mean, you don't have to be spiritual or religious to be in the pro-life movement. We all understand that. We're all at different levels. For me personally, it would be like going on a retreat and just being filled back up again, or have rest, or switch your brain off, and come back to it again. When I think back to 29 years of doing this, and I have brought up 4 children through, I now have 7 grandchildren and another wee one on the way. Well, I suppose I have 8 grandchildren, haven't seen this little one yet, only in a scan. And I just think that, God gives you the energy that you need. But yeah, there are times, that you just feel, I can't do it anymore. But then again, get rested and you just wipe yourself down and say, shut up and get on with it, because you're not the one, you're not the baby in the womb that's threatened, and I always say, while I have breath, while God gives me, that health to do what He calls me to do, we'll just do it.
You mentioned earlier, at the start of the interview, you mentioned about discernment. How much of the pro-life movement is a spiritual battle? And can you specifically go in a little bit onto discernment?
Discernment.
Within the spiritual battle of pro-life movement.
Oh, yeah. Well, I sort of knew then. I really, really prayed. I actually did 9 days of prayer when I was thinking about what God had called me to do. And I think everybody thought my head was turned, because I spoke to my colleagues at work and I said, well, I'm really praying because I'm thinking of giving up my job. My husband, thank God, such a good guy. We're married now 42 years nearly. So even going back all those years, but going into the discernment period, I just really took time, and I really prayed for 9 days every day. And I said, if this is for me, I want the sign. So I did get the sign. It's personal. And I knew then I gave my notice in. I left my job without any financial support or knowledge of how I was going to get money to form a pro-life group. but you could say I did step out in faith. And that is the sort of person that I would be. I stepped out in faith. And, everything happened. I'll tell you quickly, one incident happened. There was this baby's life under, it was one of the first babies that God gave me the grace to save and the means also. From my local town, this baby's life was under threat. And the girl hadn't got any money. Somebody had given me something like £300 to help buy leaflets and stuff. But this girl had no financial means, no support. She had a referral to go to England, and this friend of a friend said, if she had the financial support, she wouldn't have this abortion. So that £300 that was set aside, which was a lot 29 years ago, I spoke to my other colleagues who were dealing with the finances. Not that we had a lot, to be honest with you. And I said, I want that £300. It was somebody had donated it, and I said, because this life's at risk. And they were like, well, you can't just do that. You can't just decide just to say, look, I want that money to save this baby's life. And I know that, from a professional point of view, that we were trying to get things up and running. But to me, that life was the most important thing. So that £300 gave her money to put a deposit on her pram. It wasn't very much. We did further support her. We helped her down the line. Inside a month from doing that, I got this anonymous check from somebody for £300. And I knew those things, I knew God definitely was going to, support. And he has done, like when I said standing up, I needed the financial money I needed the finances for the affiliation fee for Stanton Healthcare. And this wee elderly man who was friends of mine for years and years, he said he was praying, and he rang me and he said, I just woke up this morning and I feel so inspired to donate this money to you. And the money he donated was the exact amount that I needed to affiliate, to set Stanton up and running, all those things. And I just say, look, your baby,
He provides. And I think there's so many people that would be inspired by that story, not only for your provision, Bernadette, but for other women who are like seeing, oh God, how am I going to, have this money for this pram or this house? But like God miraculously provides. And I just, oh my gosh, that moved me so much, that story.
No, but I see that happening all the time. And I always say, God placed me, in the right marriage, security, to be able to step out in faith and to do what we do and just say, well, these are God's babies. Does he not want to save them? Does he not want to save them more? So he can help us do what we do. And I've always found that, like, looking for this office at the moment, and like, we really do need a new office because this office here is so old and the building's sold. And you know what? I really, really prayed for the office, and I went to view it, and the number is 9. So I'm thinking, right, 9, that's a good heavenly number. 9 days in the 9 cars of angels. I want that office. So I said, right. So we went up and we prayed around it, quietly prayed, went in, viewed the office, came out and prayed again and said, right, okay, we're claiming this office. And this week, I got the email from the agent to say the landlord has accepted your offer, your bid for this property. And it's so good because now we'll get the Rally for Life over in July, and then we'll get a week off, to recuperate. And then we start preparing for the move the start of August. So all these things, but, why would we not believe that God is, a way step ahead of us? He hates abortion. He hates the shedding of innocent blood. And, it is a spiritual battle. And that's why I always say that. I always say, if for me personally, I feel that your spiritual life is very important because it's such a demonic, evil battle to kill an innocent child. And we can see there with the figures in the UK and now Ireland and here, something has to change. Something has to stop. There has to be a transformation of this world to stop the killing of these innocent children. So, whilst you're fighting the evil, Ephesians 6 says it very clearly, we need to put on the whole armour of God because the battle is not against flesh. So, like, I've always invested in my faith, and I know that's what sustains me. Just, Lord, give me you know,
what would you say to a young person who is afraid to share their pro-life beliefs with friends or on campuses or even just in work?
I fully understand that, because we are living in different times, and probably when I started out 29 years ago, and others like me, social media plays a big part on persecuting young people who stand up for what is right. Um, I just feel they should stay very close in their faith. But we're living in very challenging times, and we do need sacrificial people. The babies are sacrificed in the womb, and God's maybe calling us and young people to sacrifice our life. It's fair. I know the difficulty, and I would really pray for an uprising of young people, a new revolution of young people that will stand up. It's a personal commitment. And I think I meet with lots of young people here who go to university, and they're really scared because they feel they're being persecuted. And we lost so many young people over the years because, if you shared their picture up on the Precious Life page or Youth for Life page, they got bombarded, they got, crucified on social media. So it does take you to be strong in your faith to keep going. I mean, I lost lots of friends over the years. I started out in Precious Life when I was 30, early 30. And I mean, that's not overly young. But at the same time, nowadays, even people who work are persecuted in their work. But if you stand up, what's that saying? Stand for something, even if you do have to stand alone. And it is a lonely battle, and for this generation of young people, it's not hugely popular to be out there in the public. Young people stop with me in the street and say, "I'd love to do this, but I would, if you speak about it in school or if you speak about it in work, you're attacked."
You're attacked. And you can tell us, and I know the safety in numbers, so you can tell us a bit more about your event. I think you touched briefly on it. That's happening in July. Can you share with our viewers a bit more information about that?
Yeah, well, we are coming together to rally for life, liberty, and faith. And we're going to be a voice for the unborn children of Ireland, the UK, the world. So we'll be meeting at Belfast City Hall at 1:30 on the 4th of July. And we'll have the march around the city. It's very similar to the March for Life UK. As I say, we'll have speakers. We're still agreeing some of the speakers. We have a mass before for those from the Catholic tradition in St. Malachy, so at 12 o'clock. So it's going to be, a powerful day. Yes, we have to celebrate life. We have to celebrate that every child is precious, but we also have to remember all those children who have been lost to the horror of abortion. So, it's exciting. And if there's anyone listening who'd like to come and help, especially young people, I just watched there over the last few days the march in Italy, and it was amazing, upbeat. I was there one time years ago. I went to a conference in Rome, and we went to the Italian march, and it's very uplifting. So we want to make it an uplifting, celebrate life, but also remember that the battle isn't over. The battle will never be over while unborn children's lives are at risk. That is, as I say, because of your involvement in the UK. But it will be one day. It will one day if those of us continue to stand and work to make abortion unthinkable and illegal once again. And we can do that by raising the banner for life. And these events are very important. The March for Life in the UK is very important, coming up in September. And as I say, here in July, and we all should attend. And hopefully this year I'll get to the March for Life in the UK. It always comes at a bad date for me. I think everything looks good.
Might see each other. Well, thank you so much, Bernadette, then, for sharing your story and giving us your time to get to know you more. And keep up the fantastic work. You're so needed where you are. So thank you
and
so
you
much.
too, Catherine.
No
Thank
problem.
you. And all those in the movement, the little unsung heroes that people don't see, but they're very, very much. They're the wind behind us all. They keep us all going.
For
so we
sure.
have to appreciate one another. So
Exactly.
thank you,
We're
Catherine,
united.
for all the work of SPUC.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much, Bernadette.